We have a big, we have a full review of For Honor a couple weeks after it came out. All three of us have had a chance to play a little bit through it, and we figured it'd be nice to actually talk about it in a podcast instead of, giving you a 3,000-word essay on it. Because really, we're all better at just talking about games and stuff. So as we mentioned during the gaming news, and we're making fun of releases and everything, we've been waiting like 2 years for this game to come out since they dropped the trailer at E3 back in 2015. And all I have to say is, from my standpoint, it's been kind of worth the wait. I don't know if it's necessarily the game of the year. I mean, I think that's too early to tell. But I do think it's absolutely amazing, and it's been the best melee fighter that I have come across in a very long time. Just absolutely brutal with everything. So, and it's not something that I would play with my little nephew, who's 6 years old. But as like an adult game where you can just rampage and kill people, and heads are flying like Braveheart and stuff. It's this game is amazing. So, Alex, what do you think of it so far?
Well, I have to say that the story. I've been playing the story mode through it, and one of the things I really like about it is that they kind of have this ongoing narration as you go through the game. So it does kind of add sort of a unique story element to the game, without having to change too much. You've got these little cutscenes, of course, in between each little chapter and location. But what I think it is kind of repetitive in terms of the style of the gameplay. But I think that what that means is that it does get a bit tedious in terms of the learning curve, and getting improved throughout as you kind of learn how to parry and how to use certain attacks and get the right timing down. And even on, the easier modes, it is a bit challenging. So even if you're starting out with something easier, and you kind of work your way up to, medium and hard, and what they call realistic, which I thought was funny, for extra hard.
Right.
It's one of those games where I think you can play and play and play, and you're gonna spend a lot of time fine tuning your skills, so to speak. I think there is a steep learning curve.
Right. Yeah, and it's interesting that you bring that up. I mean, you obviously have to go through the tutorials first before you get to start picking up on the story mode, which, for people that like to just learn along the way and stuff like that, I think it is very necessary. It doesn't take too long. It really doesn't. But like, the blocking moves and stuff, you need to take, like I said, you need to take the time to be able to learn that. So you're not wasting all of your lives just, trying to kill everybody, because there is some defense that you have to learn, especially when you've got guys, surrounding you, and you can't, unlike a straight hack and slash game where you can just, go berserk on everybody. So it does take some concentration. And Brendan, you were talking about that before the show, about the concentration that's involved in this game.
Yeah, it's so, for those of you who don't know me too well, I work 60-plus hours a week. So sometimes as much as 70. A few weeks I've even pulled 80 hours. So for me, when I come home and I want a game, I'm into games that offer a little bit more catharsis and aren't, I can almost play on, automatic. And so, 10 years ago, 20 years or 15 years ago, this would have been a game where I would have just dumped hours and hours into, especially if I was still in the Navy and I had, god loads of time sitting around in the barracks. I would have just I probably could have easily dumped 150 hours into this game. But being 38 years old with 2 jobs, a wife, and 2 dogs, I'm sitting there and I'm trying to play, and I'm just so damn tired from what I'm doing that I'm sitting there, all right, how do I block? All right, I got the blocking down. Oh, wait, what was the parry again? And so I found myself getting my ass handed to me, quite frankly. And the game, now, don't get me wrong, this is not me bashing the game. This is me bashing me as a gamer. The game is beautiful. It is a very complex and very well thought out fighting system. just for someone who doesn't have the time or energy to put into it, I don't think it's a good buy. It's probably not an effective use of your money. You're going to end up disappointed. If you got the time, if you got the energy, if it's something you know that really interests you, that you really want to get into, I think it's a fantastically well done game. But for someone like me, you know, I like the Diablo games because they're hack and slash, and I get some story. You know,
Right.
so I like games that are heavy on story and lighter on complexity, because I'm just looking for something to take me out of my current mindset and, you know, escape to some other reality without trying to concentrate too hard. But
Right.
that being said, it is a very well done game. Although I do want to put this one thing out there, and they did put the you know, a larger than normal warning for seizures at the beginning of the game. They really kind of wanted people to know this, and for the first time ever, I actually know somebody who was affected getting seizures by this game. So, and I'm not going to reveal his name because of privacy concerns, but he's a combat veteran with traumatic brain injury. So if you are a veteran out there listening and you do have traumatic brain injury, I'm not saying don't buy it. I'm just saying you probably want to have somebody else in the room with you when you play, just in case you have a seizure. So just a thought, because he had to end up returning the game to GameStop, and I think he put the money towards Horizon Zero Dawn. So he's really hoping that game doesn't cause him the same problems. So just a little FYI out there for those of you who have those injuries.
Well, yeah. I could definitely see the possibility of that with people. I mean, it's not, especially with how good the graphics are and, you know, realistic as blood spraying all over the place. I mean, it's, like I said, or what you brought up about the fighting system. The fighting system is just top rate. I mean, that's the difference between just a straight hack and slash games, which are fun, where you're just killing lots of things. I mean, we love that about the Diablo games, okay? But they are mindless. Yeah. You know, you don't really have to do a whole lot. You're just going around, just chopping around and killing zombies and everything else. This one, there's a story. This one, you have to strategize about how you're going to defeat it. Now, it makes it a little bit easier because you have the target mode and you can lock onto the guy that you're doing first. But if you've got 3 enemies surrounding you, you know, it's like, which one are you going to take out first? And that's, to me, that's the brilliance of the challenge of this game, which makes it a really great RPG game. One of the things that I did want to point out is you talk about time with this game. If you got a lot of time on your hands, you could probably take about 8, 10, maybe 12 hours to really finish out all the campaigns, okay? And that's for serious gamers out there. But if you don't have a whole lot of time and you want to spend like 30 minutes to 45 minutes playing, you have enough time to really kind of get through one of the campaigns, okay, and get your money's worth. And, of course, one of the great things about that is you're playing different characters. I mean, each class has 4 different characters that has different weapons that you get to play. So it's different. Just as soon as you get used to a fighting mode with one character, you're moving on to another character with a completely different weapon that you have to learn all over again. And you are going to die. I mean, it's like a Dark Souls games where you just be prepared to die, and just it's going to be a little difficult. But I think that also makes the game worth it in regards to the story mode. Now, one of the biggest complaints I do have is you don't really get to pick which class you wanted to start with. So if you want to start with Samurai, you're not going to get to do it. You have to do Knights, Vikings, then Samurai. You have to work your way up to it. But it is worth it. It really, really, truly is worth it. I think the Knights are a lot more fun. But then again, I mean, the Vikings are just walking around with a battle axe and just, chopping people's heads off, and especially with the revenge mode. And you do, for gamers out there, don't be so quick about it. Do the revenge mode. Chop the head off, because it will fix your health, and you're going to need that. So, Alex, any other thoughts about For Honor so far?
Well, something else I would add, and this kind of goes along with what Brendan was saying, because I have kind of a similar style of gameplay that I'm attracted to. I prefer something that's more heavy on the story and less on the action. I was a big fan of the QTE stuff way back, when it was kind of a new thing. And I would say that, what I found out on the easy mode compared to normal and the other modes is that it allowed you to skip the strategy sequences and allowed you to just kind of see the story more. You do still go through the levels where you're fighting one-on-one combat with each character, but it skips some of those other sequences where you have to do more of the strategizing. So if you're somebody and I would still say that the gameplay is still challenging enough where you don't feel like it's too easy. So if you're somebody who is wanting to just kind of get through the story and just kind of get through the basics and something a little bit more linear with less time to wait and think in between, I would recommend the easy mode for that.
Yeah. Well, we always judge games, too, by replay value. Is this a game that you will go back and play again? And I definitely think it is, especially with, the story mode. Again, just a year or two down the road in between, starting completely all over, how many games can we say, truly get that replay value that you want to go back and revisit? I definitely think there should be a second game, or especially, with different content, different missions, and more characters. I mean, to me, you've introduced something that's unique and different and challenging, with the hack and slash and the violence and everything you want, but this is a good stepping stone. Because I don't think this game is absolutely perfect. I mean, and I'm not going to give it a perfect 10. I think it's a great game and worth $60, absolutely. But this is it going to be the game of the year? I don't think it probably will be. I think it may end up in our top 10 by the end of the year, but it's too early to tell. And Neo came out the week before, which really truly is kind of an RPG game and unique and hard, and then we have Horizon coming out tonight, which looks absolutely amazing. So one other thing I want to point out before we get to our final grades on For Honor is I'm kind of disappointed by the dual mode. I like the idea of a dual mode, but it seems like the dual mode, if you're playing the computer, is almost impossible. I just don't feel like I can, even if there isn't really like an easy mode that you can use to kind of, give yourself an advantage. So that's one of the things that I think that they do need to work on. But, Mortal Kombat and games with that kind of stuff went through those growing pains too. And sometimes you need easy modes to really be able to learn moves and get better at the game. So that's something that definitely has to be worked on in that. The multiplayer stuff, we will talk more about that on another podcast because we haven't really had a chance to have our campaigns together. But if you like a game where you like to drop in with people playing across the net, and I'll use Battlefield as an example of, since it came out, 5 months ago. With that game, you can drop in and the battle's still going on. It's not completely won, and then it moves on to another campaign. Okay? So you don't feel like you're coming in at the very end and you're not going to get to do anything. I think sometimes when you drop into certain online play with this game, it's over before it really begins for you. So it's kind of like, what am I going to do? I think the best part of the multiplayer really is going to be putting your own team together and doing your own campaign with your friends. And that's something that we're going to explore more later on with this game. Now that everybody, has their copies and is getting used to it. So I think that probably the brilliant part about the multiplayer will really, that's what's going to shine more with this game than playing in different, groups with people across the world. And sometimes that's the way it is, when you're putting together. That's kind of how all the Destiny games have been. It's been more fun to get your team together and start from beginning to end, right, Brendan?
Yeah. I always like playing in those games. You got to play group. You got to have a group of people moving around. It's okay by yourself, but when you're taking on bigger challenges with a group of friends, it's a lot more entertaining.
Right. So I mean that's where I think For Honors it'll be just like all those games where that's the best part of the multiplayer. But overall, I mean, you guys agree. I mean, the game is absolutely beautiful, and the graphics are phenomenal, and it's been, kind of worth the wait with how well, how much they put into making this game, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think so. I think for people who are, been looking for a strong melee combat system, like, I think this is going to be a blueprint for games going forward, much like Assassin's Creed gave birth to the Arkham games, and then, of course, Shadows of Mordor. I think you're going to see this spawn a new type of melee game, a new subgenre of melee action, and could you imagine this type of style put toward lightsaber fighting in Star Wars?
Yeah.
I mean, that'd be pretty outstanding. So, that might be, and then you might put it in a setting where I might say, oh well, shit, now I actually have to put the time into it. But
right.
So yeah, so I think I think the wait was worth it, and I think your assessment, Marcus, is pretty spot on. It's a very good game. It's not a perfect game, but just for the tech alone that was built for this game, I think it's going to be the springboard to other great things down the road.
Well, the game is already selling a lot and been talked about, so it's by Ubisoft, so it's not like we're not going to get a sequel down the line. So anyway,
sure.
Overall, for a final grade, I personally give it a 9 out of 10. Not perfect, but I think it's great and worthy of a 9. How about you, Alex?
I'm not prepared to go quite as high, but I'm willing to give it an 8.
I know. I'm
in Alex's camp on this one.
Okay. I'm more generous when it comes to this. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm with Alex. I give it a solid 8.
Well, and that alone makes it a good game and worth the buy right there. So, we'll go with we're going to go with our final grade of 8 out of 10.